Hello everyone. So, I know it's been quite a long time since I've last seen him, at least in this form, because I have attempted to do some live streams, and you might have seen them. I did them for like 4 minutes. YouTube doesn't let me, because apparently I'm too young to start the video, and I need parent supervision, so basically I have to put my mom's face throughout the entire thing or something. I don't know. I don't know, just YouTube. It's so weird though, because later, like an hour later, they say that nothing was wrong. It was absolutely fine. And then they put it back up. But I'm not going to try to do those live streams, at least for the next few while, because they just all have the same problem with them. It's just not worth it. But, you know, it has been a while since I've done one of these actual videos. So that's what I'm doing here today. And I know I do need to start doing stuff besides weather. I mean, of course, I haven't been here in a while in general. It is the summer for me now, so of course I'm going to be able to post lots and lots of videos, as usual. But I do have a few video ideas that are not entirely related on weather. TV show reviews, the problem with that is they are most likely to take longer because I have to compile a bunch of clips because, you know, usually with those, you kind of want to see the show as I talk with it. And, you know, non-copyrighted film. Like, basically what I have to do is take 5-second clips from episodes and just put them all over, then it won't get copyrighted. But, I mean, that's not too hard. It's just, it's time taking. So, and plus, I don't really know the exact idea that I'm going to do for TV show reviews. So, I will do that eventually. Maybe not in the next week, though. You know why I'm not doing it in the next week? Because, yes, I am actually going to Alaska. I don't know if I told you that I'm actually going on vacation this time. I've said it here and there that, we might go this summer. I'm hoping to go this summer, this spring break or whatever. But no, we've got the hotel scheduled, the plane scheduled, pretty much the entire way there scheduled, and with some of the activities that we do along the way, we have them scheduled. We're getting all the supplies ready, and we really need to pack because we're going to be there for a week. And unfortunately, we cannot bring the dog, but, you know, it's just, we can't bring him on a plane. It's just going to be too difficult. So, I will make, of course, a lot of videos on that, obviously. I mean, sometimes I would need to relax, but, you know, I'm going to try to film it as much as possible. Usually those videos are the easiest of all to maneuver. I don't know if I'm going to use iMovie for them anymore, though, because that doesn't really work. But, basically, yeah, I'm going to make a lot of videos there. A lot of the videos I won't be able to edit. Some of my ideas I could do, it's just, I'm going to be too distracted with so many other things. I mean, maybe I could try to edit them on the plane. This is actually the first time I'm going on a plane, by the way, just so you know. But I don't know if the Wi-Fi will be good. I mean, I don't know if I need Wi-Fi for that, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. It depends when I'm available, but this video I am going to get up by today because it is, of course, a weather video, and it is important. So, what we're seeing is severe weather. We're not seeing any snowstorms anymore because it's June. That was where we left off. But, yeah, a lot of stuff is going on right now, and I won't be able to make a live stream on this, unfortunately, because it's just going to keep failing over and over again. But as long as I'm able to tell you it, you'll be able to understand the full gist of it. So, anyways, let's get into the dynamics. Now, before what we're going to see in the future, I want to show briefly what we have seen. Now, unfortunately, I cannot play this video because I don't think I have the permission to. This is someone, as you can see, this video would be taken by Chris Bianchi, I believe I'm saying that. But I can't show this because it is copyrighted, definitely. And also, I don't even know if I'm supposed to show that article because I think maybe that will be copyrighted. There's a lot of pictures. Basically, what we're talking about, this is probably the only picture I can show, but as you can see, these are one of the many tornadoes that we saw 2 days ago. This wasn't yesterday, this was Wednesday. These are twin tornadoes that spun in an open field of Akron, Colorado. photo by Tony Lobbock of AccuWeather, and it was a very intense storm. This is not the one that caused the most damage on that day, of course, as you can see in this article. But, it is very interesting to see the many tornadoes we've seen, and let me just say, this is not normal. We're not supposed to see this amount of tornadoes, especially in Colorado. Jeez, I don't know. I just don't want it to seem like, I'm repeating what they say. But, yeah, there was quite a lot of tornadoes in general over the past couple of days. And it's been pretty active in the world of severe weather. There has been a ton, honestly, including one very intense one that we saw in Texas that caused, unfortunately, immense damage. You can see some of the pictures here, and it's pretty upsetting. It killed 4 people in Matador, Texas on Wednesday night. So that is not a nice thing. And this isn't really supposed to happen. I mean, we're not really supposed to see tornadoes or severe weather at all right now. Oh, this is another one. Sorry, my bad. But really, some of the damage you see, I'm allowed to show these, I believe. If I'm not, this is who it was, Lubbock Fire Rescue via Facebook. I really hope I'm allowed to show this. But, basically, the damage was absolutely insane. 4 people died, which is very unfortunate. This tornado in Matador, Texas, there's some pictures of the tornado itself, but not many. It was mostly the damage that you could really see, and it was really, really horrible of an event. But honestly, this isn't really supposed to be happening in June, especially towards late June, as usually you would expect this in May, April, the typical time of tornado season. However, a very unique pattern has set up. Let me show you the 850 millibar chart today. I think there is some charts that it can show. So I just wait. I don't know if this is today. This is probably not today. Let me see. Sorry. Here, I'm looking for it, but it's definitely here somewhere. Weather? Here, wait a sec. I gotta pause this, read this yet, so don't think I'm some sort of master. I'm not. But from what I can tell, this shows, slightly less. There's a lot of these twists in different parts of the atmosphere as they go up. Because I believe this is how many miles above the surface on a globe scale is. Maybe how intense those winds are. Usually it's supposed to be a constant uprise. However, when there's more wind shear, it's supposed to be more twisty. Kind of like this, but to a much greater scale. Here, I think, is the difference in dew point and temperature. Dew point is just the temperature, I believe, at the higher points in the atmosphere where storms are supposed to develop. Temperature is just the ground temperature, obviously. And as we see, when they're very close to each other, usually it's a little more constant because there's less friction against them. Now, I just wanted to show that because you're probably going to need to understand it for when I'm going to show you those charts. However, what I mean to actually show you is this. Now, this is the low pressure system that is going to be causing... Oh, wait, no, this was from Tuesday, so no, it's not. But you might be able to see, as I play this along, an interesting little thing you notice is that the low pressure systems are not all the way up here. They're kind of tracking all the way down here, and a lot of these intensities are not up here in June. Usually they're supposed to be hanging around in Upper Canada by this point, because it's the summer. Usually the jet stream lines are the divider between hot and cold air. Usually that's supposed to be way up here, and you can kind of see some of the remnants, like right here. This is a forecast, but it is a representation of the pattern we're going to see. And look up here. This is where it's supposed to be. However, we're seeing so much energy travel along this area in the southern United States, probably from around the Pacific Northwest, heading down into the high plains, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, and then into the southern United States. That's not normal. It's supposed to be up here. Like, that's a more typical feature. Maybe not even that. Like, basically, sorry about that. Basically, a more typical feature would be this. Because that's all the way up where the jet stream should be. However, it's a little different from that. Because technically, let me see if I can find, 500 millivolts. Technically, this isn't the jet stream we know. This is actually a different branch of the jet stream called a subtropical jet stream. Because it's not just one jet stream, the winds that move over the upper reaches of the atmosphere of the United States. It's not just one, there's two, technically. It can split, specifically on El Nino years. This is an El Nino. Basically, it's not a big deal, it's just, well, it is, actually. It really affects the weather. Basically, the waters in the equatorial eastern Pacific are really warmer than average. And that, since the rising heat, it kind of causes a difference in how the jet stream acts. Like, the winds from the heat in the eastern Pacific cause the jet stream to, like, wind a little bit differently sometimes. It affects the world, but, there's so many videos online explaining that. I'm not going to go into detail, because really, we're more talking about what is going to happen next. And as you can see, what we're seeing with this, there's a lot of these systems that are in the central and southern United States, because this is the subtropical jet stream. It's not the jet stream you know of. That's still way up here. However, this is a different branch that develops once the eastern Pacific is heated. And that's where we're seeing all this friction and wind shear that is coming with the severe weather. Now, if you push this forward to around 4th of July early week, as you can see, it kind of breaks up a little bit, which is good news. It does seem like this pattern won't last for too much longer, maybe another week. It seems like now there's a large ridge setting up all around here, even though this is what I would consider a ridge, these heated areas, because they're not condensed. There's a large ridge and a less instability in this overall area, and this might cause to warmer conditions. And there's still little areas of instability here and there, but it's definitely a calmer pattern and more typical of what we would see in June or something. Because we're not supposed to see these tornadoes, but since the subtropical jet stream is so active, then all of this is appearing. And of course, this is 2 weeks out. I'm not saying it is going to disappear, but that is what it's showing. So that's a picture of why we've been seeing all this weather. So even if it hasn't made a lot of sense, because you don't really experience this in June or something, maybe in some areas, like far up north in Canada, or maybe the Northeast, it can dip down into there. It's not normal in this case, usually. So I just wanted to point out how this works. But what about what is actually going to happen? Yes, we know why it's happening, but can we get to how this is going to actually affect us? Well, basically, let's go to the NAM 12 kilometer. This is, let me go down to the lower, this is temperature, but this is actually still kind of an interesting map if you want to check it out. This is sort of just a temperature anomalies, I guess, like average temperatures. I'm not entirely sure, like the wind chills and temperatures in different areas of the atmosphere, and you can see, I think the purple means it's kind of warm, but I don't know, I'm not perfect with this map. It does seem like it's much warmer there, which is bad thing, more instability and more heat air rising. But anyways, let's go back to the precipitation, and I am going to look for the HRRR, because that is the model that is more short term. It has better consistency with what we're going to see in the near future. Let me just see. HRRR. Just wait a sec. HRRR model chart, North Central US. Alright. Sorry about that. Alright, so we're going to show wind direction. Well, okay, this works. So, this is what's going to be causing our severe weather today. You see all these shifting winds right here near Wyoming, into Colorado, entering Wyoming, and down here into South Dakota, Nebraska. You see how all these winds are mixing together? That is going to cause a lot of wind shear, which those winds are going to go in all different directions and spin around each other, I guess you could say. That's going to cause some tornado parameters to go ahead, or at least supercells, the clouds will spin, and they can better produce those tornado parameters. And this is a slightly less resolution model, but you can see there is quite the commotion going on, specifically in this high plains area. Of course, I was also saying it can dip into the southern plains, this pattern. It's not that right now. There's a smaller system up here, which is causing some instability, but not enough to cause nearly as much of what we're seeing. So, one thing I do want to show, before we look at the models, is the outlook. What is the severe weather outlook going to be based on the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center? Convective outlooks. So, of course, we have a day 1, day 2, day 3, and past that, we don't really know much, but this is day 1, and as you can see, it is pretty intense. This is where we're seeing a lot of the weather. I thought that would make something. This is what was issued at 1958Z. That's just the Universal Standard Time. This would be around noon in this area, or in the East Coast, 2 p.m. So it's pretty accurate. It wasn't long ago. I'm filming this 5:25, if you see. And this is showing an enhanced risk, specifically in eastern Wyoming, northwestern Nebraska, and southwestern South Dakota. Now, this is a little more typical of this time of year, but still, it's supposed to be much farther north. We're not quite there yet, and a lot of it actually heads into the mountains. Mountains usually block some areas of wind shear. However, it is causing a lot of instability in this area, and of course, it's not just tornado. Let's look at the wind, and that's probably the main concern. That's also why we're seeing the smaller marginal risk right here in pretty much the Delmarva area into near Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. And we also have a smaller separated slight risk that's part of the same marginal risk area down here in the panhandle of Texas, which is near Matador, and also Perryton, which also had a tornado recently. But it doesn't look like it's going to be in that regard. Speaking of which, here is the tornadoes to just see how much of it will be taken up in this specific parameter. And it is mostly a risk in that eastern Wyoming area that is under that enhanced risk. Not so much as the further east you go. That is more concerned with wind. As you can see, a hatched risk. Hatched risk means the winds are going to be extra intense. And I think hatched area, 10% or greater possibility of wind gusts 65 knots. That's around, I'm not good with knots, obviously. No, not really many people are. That's around 70 miles per hour, which is pretty intense, within 25 miles of a given point. So if you point somewhere, it's within 25 miles, you may see this amount of 70 miles per hour. And as you can see, there is much intense winds expected in the eastern portion of this. A little bit in where the other areas of the enhanced risk, where the tornado risk and other stuff are. But it's mostly in the eastern area, as there it's going to become a damaging line. Now, I will show you the models in a little bit. Hail also, it's not much of a big deal in the eastern area. It is a little bit in this Texas location, and a little bit into southeastern Colorado, southwestern Kansas. That's where the risk is there, along with the wind, and that's also where the Delmarva Peninsula is seeing the wind. But the tornado risk is significant in this area. 5% doesn't sound like a lot. That is within 25 miles of a given point. So there's a 5% chance of 5 to 10%, by the way. This is not just 5%. It's more 5 to 10% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of a point. So that's high, not intense, but it's definitely larger than what we would usually see. And there is a smaller 2% that goes into that Texas area. does probably consist of Matador, but that's definitely not as high as we were seeing. So, large high plains event, definitely more than we would usually expect. And yeah, quite active weather. Of course, it's not just going to end today. We have a slight risk. This time, it's moving further east. And a bunch of tiny little marginal risks. Guys, can you just be quieter? Guys, can you just be quieter? Oh, sorry about that. So there is a smaller slight risk here, moving east, this time in northern Missouri, most of Iowa might be under concern, and western Illinois, this time in the eastern plains probably, and some tiny little portions of marginal risk, two tiny marginal risks west of Dallas, one here, and one in the lower Mississippi Valley. That's probably not going to add too much. Tornado, there is actually a fairly likely chance, probably as likely as today, so we're also going to have significant severe weather probably here in southern Iowa, northern Missouri tomorrow too. Wind is also concerned, and also these little tiny plots of wind too. It's weird. I think those are separated systems. And then the hail risk, which we do have a hatch risk here, which means larger hail, 2-inch diameter, which is basically around softball size, if you know what that is, maybe a golf ball. And that's going to be pretty intense for this area. They do experience it sometimes this year. I don't think it's going to be one of those types of derechos they sometimes experience in summer. It's going to be different than that. But it definitely looks very concerning on that day. And then also day 3. We have a slight risk in the Ohio Valley near Kentucky, southern Indiana, and Cincinnati a little bit. We don't have the specific. We only have categorical and probabilistic, which just means how likely severe weather is and the chance for the risk of severe weather. So there's not anything specific, but we do have some parameters that we do notice here. So let's get into the models. That's just, you don't really get the full story here. So let's get into the models. The HRRR model today. Let me just show that. HRRR. Alright. So let's move into a specific region. Let's go to the north central US. That's basically where we're gonna see a lot of it. It's a little off center there. Let me show a little bit. Northwest. We probably see. I think I'm gonna have to switch it a little bit, but this is what we can show right now. This is the regions. And as you can see, small little storms popping up around. Well, this is a little bit behind where we are. This is around. I think it's 3 p.m. 3 p.m. This is a little off because it's not the same time zone. 2 p.m., 3 p.m. And you can see tiny little storms peeking out here. But one thing you'll definitely notice, if they're in supercell form, that means there's going to be more instability. And there is lots of instability also up here in Montana, but it seems like they're right along the line between cold or dry and warm or moist air. So it looks like they're not really going to be in the direct position. They're not going to get the warm area to move around it unless if they're supercells, because they're going to be smaller and have less blocks on all sides. Here, though, looks interesting. There's many more supercell type storms. This is up in the mountains. It's probably not going to be able to cause much. But as you can see, slight differences as you go further up in the atmosphere. Or is that lower in the atmosphere? I believe that would be lower. No, higher. Because of the pressure, lowest. And there's a difference, much greater difference between temperature and dew point there. But you can see they're very cold because this is in the mountains. So it's not going to do much. It's not that heated. Up down here, which is slightly further down, but slightly further in the plains, little warmer temperatures and many twisty lines there. So it is possible. But what remains seeing, this supercell right down here looks the most interesting. As you can see, warmer temperatures, those are able to sustain instability. And look at this. This is a large little peak there. You can see that peak. That means a very twisty lines there. And that probably means there's going to be a lot of storm energy. As we move on, this moves into western Nebraska, southwestern western South Dakota. And here's where the main wind concern comes, because they're not individual supercells besides this one, which can still be concerning at this point. But that's going to be the one exception, maybe. Not a lot of instability in the dew point and the temperature there. That's not always needed. But as you can see, it's mostly going to be a line of storms, which means they can provide fast general winds, but not specific tornadoes, we would see. And a few little supercells. This is late in the night, so they're probably not going to have much energy to work with. This is around 8 p.m., so early evening we're seeing all this. And there's the main low pressure system over the northeastern Colorado. It's not going to be right there because there's not enough instability right around it. As you can see, oh my gosh, this looks pretty concerning though, because it's a gigantic twist. Usually the more twisty it is, it does mean something. Not too much difference in the dew point and temperature though. So there are going to be materials there. It's not going to be insane like we've seen in entire tornado outbreaks, but definitely a few tornado storms. And also, this could give some hail or some supercells can produce large hail, and some of the lines can too. So if there's more colder temperatures in the upper reaches of the atmosphere and more instability, that also adds to the hail threat. Like if there's a higher difference up here in the dew point and temperature, that's more likely for hail, so that might be a possibility. I don't know if that's going to be the main concern, but we're definitely going to notice it before this turns into a line of storms and there's not enough heat energy to work with. A few supercell type formations around 10 p.m., but it's probably going to be a little too cool for that, but still, very good materials in terms of wind shear, just not a whole lot in the moistness. We have to check that. And of course, then this leads into tomorrow's risk further down into Iowa and Missouri. Now let's look at that smaller slight risk that we're seeing in the south central U.S. and Texas. And we are going to see that briefly here. Over here, this is what we're seeing the storms right now. A few little tiny storms. And I mean, this is more just showing to a spinning storm. It's still basically constant because it's not like sharp turns and stuff like that, but it still would have some parameters. It could produce a few supercells, maybe possible in hail, but not going to be too intense. We're not really going to see the main intense storms until a small little line develops here, and also a tiny little supercell in far western Kansas, and some of the parameters are there. It's not anything crazy. Very warm though, so I will say there's a lot of moist air for it to work with. And down here in Texas, also extremely warm. There is actually a gigantic heat wave there, so I don't know if it would be too warm for any moist air. And you can see that here, 102 degree Fahrenheit temperature, even though it's only 58 degrees in terms of dew point. This is not going to be where the main severe weather is. It's just small thunderstorms. Here we might see some severe weather. Some hail might be possible. We do have a few of those temperature differences. And you can see there is some of a risk, but it's definitely not as intense as it is up there, specifically in the tornado area, and not as much in winds, because there's not as much storms, not as much winds to a wide area, it seems like. It still remains pretty condensed. Some hailers could develop here. Definitely not that much instability, but definitely some amounts. And as we move on, these kind of do weaken. This is around 8 p.m., 9 p.m. today. Definitely some instability here. Definitely some changes. And a lot of twistiness. There is some twistiness, so we could experience maybe a few spin-up tornadoes, but not a whole lot in place. And this will start weakening soon. So if you're wondering, if you're concerned about if there's going to be a gigantic tornado in the panhandle of Texas, in the Red River Valley, don't worry. It doesn't look too bad in terms of that. Not even hail either. That's also sometimes a concern. Might be damaging winds, a little bit of that. And also flooding. Flooding is possible too. I mean, it's not going to be that the same storm's tracking over the same area though. So that doesn't seem concerning. It just seems like not normal thunderstorms, because they are more severe than what you would get normally, but definitely not anything too insane. And here's where the other storms come in. You can kind of see them up the top corner there, but it doesn't go out far enough to show the real risk tomorrow. I have to go a little further down. I have to go further down in resolution. So here, let me see. NAM 12 kilometer. That might have. Yeah. Okay. So let's go into the specific regions. North Central U.S. This is where we're gonna see the weather tomorrow, and we will have some. It is mostly good at showcasing this, just slightly less specific. But as you can see, this line of storms does weaken substantially. This is the early morning where the least heated air is, and it slowly spins into Iowa, and then these are the storms that we are talking about, and as you can see, still very supercellular. I can't see the hodoscope? I can't remember the name, sorry about that. But I can't check on that, but it does seem like there is a lot of materials in the air to cause pretty intense storms, and they definitely blow up as we enter into the early evening. This is around late afternoon, I would say 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and you can see a few supercells bursting up. I will notice not really much in Missouri on this model. This is just this model. It's not the only one to rely on. One tiny supercell that forms up there, but it's mostly Iowa and actually a little bit into Minnesota. I wouldn't be surprised if we got some strong storms there. Not much of them in the supercells, but it does form into just a line, so the damaging wind threat, and also probably hail. It is not showing the wind, the different dew point and temperature levels up there in this thing. This is in early evening, and some significant hail and damaging winds could move in along the upper Mississippi Valley between Iowa and Illinois. I'm not showing those smaller little plots of severe weather down there, because that's probably not going to be too severe, unless if we see some updates tomorrow. But yeah, definitely something interesting. Maybe some turbulence on my plane flight, I don't know. And as we move on, this isn't Sunday, and some stuff is going on there. But yeah, quite an interesting pattern that we are seeing, and it's mostly going to be concerned today for the high plains. That's where you could see the most tornadoes, not Texas or Oklahoma. Mostly Wyoming, Nebraska, South Dakota. It's not super common there, but definitely something to watch out for. And then into Iowa and Missouri. That could also be a concern. It is looking concerning, not just for tornadoes, hail possibly, a lot of different models that we're seeing. But other than that, it might start to slowly become quiet here. There is that one pressure system that we are watching that's moving east across the United States, but mostly it's going to slowly start becoming calmer. Not for you guys in the east, for you guys in the west though. Slowly but surely going to get calmer. And of course, we also do have the tropical weather. Not anything that is going to harm the U.S. so far. Speaking of which, let's look at these cyclones. This is Tropical Storm Brett currently. This is not good thing to show. Let's look at the radar. So this is what we're going to see with Tropical Storm Brett, a close-up. But you might not know where this is. These are the ABC Islands, Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire. It's going to pass north of them and slowly going to weaken. As you can see, it becomes very disorganized by around Saturday morning. It's still traceable, but it kind of completely ends by Saturday night. Not really a concern for the Caribbean either, though. It passed the Lesser Antilles and caused some flooding and damages. Not really that much anymore, though. And it's going to barely make it to Central America, but it basically will be weakened by then. It is a very active tropical picture, very warm temperatures in the main development region. Definitely abnormal, as everybody has heard of. Tropical waves are now developing much more often. Let's look at that other storm. Cindy, which just developed. That's also a name one, Cindy 4L. And that's in the main development region. Tropical waves usually are not supposed to develop until like the summer, late summer, August, September, and the peak of hurricane season, because the temperatures are warmer there then. But here we're seeing lots of them right now, and it's honestly close to a record. We haven't really seen two simultaneous storms in that area in probably since like the 60s or something. But as you can see, it does become strong, by Saturday, but no land masses nearby, it seems like. So it's going to be out to sea storm. And it is going to strengthen again, probably. Oh, wait, no, I think that I already showed that. But yeah, some moments of strengthening. Saturday morning, Sunday night, I would say. But then eventually it'll weaken and probably entirely dissipate by Monday night. Maybe it might still possibly redevelop, but not much in the tropics. We are on lookout, though, because if it gets calmer in the United States, that means less instability. Wind shear isn't good for hurricanes because they're stacked on top. They're supposed to be stable. They don't like as much instability. They like prefer to be packed, like a stack of pancakes. So if there's wind shear, if there's different winds in the atmosphere, it's gonna blow the pancakes apart or something. I saw that on AccuWeather. So hurricanes need less wind shear to develop, so we need more wind shear for those. But that might cause us more severe thunderstorms. But, it depends what you think is a better idea, severe thunderstorms or a tropical system. But either way, that's all we really have. We could see these storms come into the U.S., but they look like they're going to be weakened by then. So thankfully, we don't have to worry about them in that regard. Sorry about that being so long. I just wanted to get everything covered so you understood. Hopefully I spoke, well, here, let me just turn the thing on. Hopefully I spoke about this clearly enough to you. I know it's a little bit complicated of a manner to understand. I just wanted to get everything in place so you at least know how to tell these graphs, because, sometimes it can be confusing. I mean, it's just, at first it looks like a bunch of squiggly lines, and some parts even I don't understand. I'm not perfect. I'm not a major meteorologist. I don't even have a degree yet. But I wanted you to get the idea of how to see events like this, and of course, the actual weather. I may or may not give timestamps in the description, just in case, so you can see when, we get to the actual weather, what we're seeing. But, then you might not understand how to read this stuff quite yet. I do say it midway. I just wanted to show you how to read it, too. So, if you want to look at tropical tidbits and any outlook or forecasting technique you can use, like forecasting app, then you can understand the dynamics that you need to know. But either way, sorry about this length of the video. I would have made it shorter, but I kind of wanted to show you some of this stuff. And also, there is a lot going on in the weather right now, and I haven't been, talking with you guys in a while. So this is the way to really get deep invested in what we're going to see this summer, what we need to track this summer in terms of the different elements of weather. So, at least for the future, when I have other weather forecasts, hopefully not 3 months from now, I don't want to waste more time, then I won't have to tell you all this again, and the videos can be a little shorter. Either way, yeah, everyone, thank you guys for watching. Sorry about the length. I'm going to try to post more often, and also during the Alaska trip, I have to post those videos. It's gonna be pretty exciting. I mean, it's Alaska. Who could never ask for more? It's absolutely insane. Anyways, though, thank you for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. If you don't know what the notifications look like, it's a bell icon right next to the subscribe button. And I don't care if you dislike. If you really didn't like this video, fine, dislike. But anyways, guys, the world can be a rough place, and there's never one true shortcut, but one thing to say: if you want a smoother road, with the traffic smoother and the curves are less intense, just stay on the Maury's Data on the Road freeway. Goodbye, guys.